A new health initiative launched in Green Bay today is taking a different approach to preventative care. Teeth to Toes is bringing health and dental care into the same conversation, and former Packer Donald Driver is helping lead that effort. Sam Goodman spoke with Driver about the impact he hopes the campaign makes on Wisconsinites. He joins us now live in the studio. Sam.
Well, Cammie, the campaign isn't just about getting people to brush and floss. The organizers say they want to catch health problems earlier, and they believe paying closer attention to oral health can be part of that. The initiative grew out of a personal experience shared by Network Health CEO Corrine Dykes-Johnson and her daughter, Dr. Miranda Peter, a dentist. Peter identifying signs of a serious medical concern during a patient's dental exam. These went unaddressed and had tragic consequences. Now, Network Health says it wants to help people see their dentist as another part of their overall health team. Drivers says the campaign's success ultimately comes down to its impact on people.
I mean, it's all about saving lives. You know, I think that's the key that a lot of people don't really understand. And so if we can save 1 or 2 lives through this process, but then making sure that kids stay healthy, then we've done our job, right?
The campaign is now asking people across Northeast Wisconsin to take a health habits pledge and make oral health a part of their daily routine. Cammie?